Okay, so I'm going to record here this Photoshop recap tutorial there, just basically covering everything that we saw in class in the previous week, and also perhaps giving you guys some insights on some other features as well. Just bear in mind that the only thing I won't be able to do here is the neural filters because I am running Photoshop 2020 and neural filters are only available in Photoshop 2021. Okay, so let's again work with this file here that we had last week. We can see down here in our layers that we have a picture as our layer 1, okay, in the background, and we have 3 other layers which are invisible at the moment. Excuse me. Um, so on this corner here, again, we have our layers, and Photoshop, just like pretty much any other Adobe software, is a layer-based software. That means that it works in layers. And then imagine each layer as a thin sheet of glass where you can paint your background and your foreground, and you just pile them up and you see from above, and then you get all of the images combined, right? With a few modifications, of course. You can have layers to be full frame like this. This one covers the entire frame. This one also covers the entire frame, but it's actually working with a blending mode, which we'll get to further on. Now, the purpose of this exercise is to work selections. So let's have a look at our selection tools. First of all, I have to talk about the Move tool. The shortcut is V, and this is the tool that you use to click and grab stuff and move stuff around, right? You just gotta be sure that you just gotta be mindful that whatever you're clicking to move is actually selected in your layer. Because if you select another layer and you click and stuff, and you will go back to the previous layer, right? Like this one, for example. Move this one and then move this one. Okay, so make sure that you're working on the actual layer you need to work with. So our selection tools. Second from the top, we have the marquee tool, shortcut M. For pretty much all the tools, if you click and hold, it will show up different options as well. So for the marquee tool, let's focus on rectangular and elliptical. So rectangular marquee tool is the one that gives us a rectangular selection just by clicking and dragging here. And notice that this entire um, kind of like serrated dotted line around this her face represents our selection. With any selection tool on, I can click and drag my selection around. And if I go back to my move tool and I drag my selection, I am basically cutting it from the rest of the picture. Okay. If you want to get rid of your selection at any time, you can press Ctrl D on PC or Command D on a Mac. The elliptical tool works the same way. It's just elliptical instead of rectangular. A few tricks with the elliptical tool. If you hold Shift while you drag, it will always make a perfect circle. And then if you hold Alt while you drag, it will expand your selection from this initial point where you started dragging. Okay, so if you hold Alt and Shift at the same time, it will make a perfect circle starting on, there you go, starting on where you positioned your mouse, your cursor. Okay, the next one here are the lasso tools. So first of all, there's the standard lasso tool, which enables more of like a freehand selection, which is not very accurate, as you can see. It's freeform, freehand selection. It's more using animation processes. We may or may not get to that later in the course. The other lasso, here's the polygonal lasso. As you click, move, and click again, and then click and move, click and move, click and move, click and move. If you click and drag, it doesn't work that well. You just have to click, move, click, let go, and move. You will create straight polygonal shapes to form a selection. This is better when you're working with objects that are straight. For example, if I want to select the entire area of the wall in the background, all the way from here, There you go, that is selected now. Everything on that wall, but I mean, there's actually more wall space down here, so yeah, sorry. Um, and last but not least is our magnetic lasso. The magnetic lasso works by recognizing different color patterns in your picture. So if I want to select her arm, for example, and I click in this corner, I let go of the button and just start dragging my mouse around her arm, Photoshop will recognize the difference in color between her arm and the background, or whatever her arm is touching, and will try and get a line around it to get the selection done. As you can see, this one is also not very accurate. It relies way too much on color differences, and depending on what you're working with, the color difference will not be as clear for Photoshop. So yeah, okay. Um, it works best for when you have a really big contrast in colors that you want to select and separate. The next one down, which is the fourth one from the top, is the quick selection tool. Okay, shortcut W. The quick selection tool is my favorite. It actually, as you click and drag, it selects an area following the same idea of the polygonal lasso. Okay, and I find it to be way faster as well. You can see that, of course, it got some areas that was not supposed to get, but that is fine because we can also use it to clean up our selections, right? So I'm going to make this slightly bigger, okay? And you can click here to change the size of your quick selection thing. If you, with the quick selection tool on this first option right here, okay, by default, it is going to add to your selection, okay? And you can see with the plus sign inside your cursor, or if you hold Alt and Shift, it will turn into a negative selection. And you can use that to clean up your undesired selection here. So I want to have just her arm in the selection. That's it. Okay, get this nail back here. I can change the size again just to do a better cleanup here on the insides. Beautiful. Get the finger back in here. There you go. Again, it's never gonna be like perfect or anything, but it already gives you an idea on how it works. So there you go. Oh shit, I forgot a finger. Never mind. You get it. Next on, we have the magic wand. Magic wand again works by selecting, let's say, color spaces, but the selection range of the color wand is pretty shallow. So if you click in her arm, for example, it will select basically the highlights of the arm. No, it disregards the rings, it disregards the other tones. All right. You can increase the tolerance if you wish, but then yeah, it's not fully reliable. Okay. And then last but not least, we have the object selection tool, shortcut W, inside the same thing over there, which works to select objects that offer a big contrast in accordance with their background. So let's try and select her eye here. It should take a while, but it should work. Not really. Yeah, did select the eye, but like with everything, not like the eyebrow and the eye separately, but that is fine. Object selection tool again works for objects that are in high contrast with their backgrounds. Okay, so let's move on and do the quick selection tool. With the quick selection tool, I would like to select the wall, the green wall in the background, and replace it with something else. So we can start in the corner here, just click and drag to start a selection. It's okay if it goes over the grass or over her arm right here, because remember, if you hold Alt, you can clean up your selection. Okay, same here with the hair. Just do like a very quick cleanup. Do not worry being so neat with the hair. Okay, that looks good enough for me. Now from here I only have a few options. we can just simply press delete, okay? And then the wall is gone, and all this white and gray checkerboard here represents a part of the canvas of your work area that is transparent or empty, right? So if I am to get this texture over here and put it underneath our layer 1 and turn it on, it will replace the wall that was in the back, right? So again, because this area here on this layer is empty, if I put something behind it, this layer will become my foreground, and this texture number 2 is now my background, right? Easy as pie, okay? Now, we can see there are some really hard edges around her hair here, so let's work on fixing that right now. You can get your eraser tool, which is this one right here, shortcut E, get the eraser, and then click on the top here to make sure that you have a better size, like a slightly bigger size. I'll go with 50 pixels, but ideally make your hardness 0. When you make your hardness 0, it erases stuff like with a faded edge, so you have this impression that it is blending with the background, and that works especially good for like hair. If you get people that of course like Photoshop trained and they spend some time looking at your image, they might realize that you had something going on. But for the general public, you know, this works most of the times. We're every day deceived by Photoshop masters out there. Okay, make sure you have your eraser, and then click here to change the size and make sure that your hardness is 0%, because this will give a soft edge for you to work with. There you go. When we revert back to original size, we can see that the hair is pretty much blended in with the background. Now, let's move on and do some work on her face. So with our layer 1 selected, we can go to filters and then liquify. If there is a face to be detected, oh, no, wait a second, it's not working. Just give me a moment. Window capture. Okay, so here we are. So by default, Photoshop should detect a face in your picture and then put you in the liquify of the face. So face 2 right here. So when we zoom in the new face, the face liquefier controls will pop up as we move around the screen. So in the eyes, for example, we can just, you know, twist her eyes a little bit, make her eyes like smaller or bigger. Like right off the bat, I think the eyes had different sizes. So let's just fix that, and then we show like a longer infinite nose that has a bigger smile and less lower lips. I guess smile a little bit, just a little bit. Right, with the face, we can also make less forehead, bigger chin, less cheeks. There you go. Now she looks way slimmer. Yeah, less forehead, of course, right? And you can check and uncheck the preview tick box down here to check your before and after. And then hit OK. Right? You could go further with this using the neural filters, but again, I don't have them on my version of Photoshop, so unfortunately that will have to be saved for the next video. There you go. Oh yes, we can also do some adjustments. So there are two ways of doing adjustments in Photoshop. You can do a layer specific adjustment that gets imprinted on your layer, and to do that you can go to image adjustments and then select an adjustment to do. Or you can do your adjustments on top of all the layers. You create a layer that behaves as an adjustment. Okay, so if you go down over here to your adjustments tab over here, or if you go to layer new adjustment layer, you have exactly the same options that you have over here, which now I just realized that they are not showing. Just give me a second here. Yeah, well, in the layer menu, you should see the new adjustment layer option down here, which refers to any of these here as well. Okay, let's start by working this one, the curves. Okay, by clicking here, you create a curves layer, and then the curves graph will show up for you. Ideally, one thing that I like to do when I work my curves is just slightly pull this part of the curve down and this one up. We ideally need to create this very simple S-shaped curve. Okay, don't go really far because you can have your colors get like really saturated. Just, slightly off the main line that goes across the graph. Okay, this is before and after. You can see that the colors, they pop up a bit more. You create a lot more contrast on your picture. Okay, you can also have some, where is this, where is that, exposure, vibrance. You can also work with color balance. Color balance, we can see there's a lot of like green and yellow in this picture. So if we would like to make it more neutral, we can just push away from the yellows and away from the, and so maybe a little bit. Perhaps make it like slightly warmer or slightly colder. There you go, we're getting there. And you go, so before and after, we're basically just in a color balance to make sure to make this picture look more bland to some degree. In this original configuration is very warm, but you could use color balance to make it more neutral. And same for the curves. The curves are still adding that all of that contrast and color that I was talking about. If you're doing this for like let's say a fashion marketing related campaign, and you need like a copy or a title, you can add a text by simply clicking over here in your text tool. Okay, and let's add one at the top here. Whenever you generate text in Photoshop, it generates a dummy text for you called lorem ipsum, which we are not going to need at this stage, but we will work more with it further on once we reach InDesign. So for now on, let's just go and write something simple like a fashion, yeah, and let's pick a nice font for it as well. That might be too much. That one works fine. You can drag over here to make it bigger as well, and drag the box to also adjust the size of your text. I like my text over there. It's nice. Cool, and have in mind as well that whenever you create a new text, it will come up as a new text layer. Okay, there you go. If you want to save your photo, you can go to File, Save As, and then select proper save type for it, which I just now realized is not being shown in the recording, which sucks. I will fix that for the next ones. But anyway, this is all we have on Photoshop today. I will put this video on Microsoft Teams and leave it there for you guys to recap whenever you need. Thank you.